Hi everybody, my name's Allyn. On behalf of the crew, I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Bridging Heaven and Earth. You know, it's really an honor, again, to be here, to be given the opportunity as I am, so many times a year, so many times over the years, to welcome you to Bridging Heaven and Earth, to welcome you into an experience where the intention of every one of our shows, if you've seen it before or just watching the opening, you can get a sense of what we're here to do. You can get a sense of the vibration of our intention, our desire, our wanting to be with you in a certain way, our wanting to be with each other. Because in the studio, obviously, you're looking at, one human being, me. And there are a lot of people on cameras, there are a lot of people in the audience, there are a lot of people, doing all kinds of jobs and makeup and hair and, clappers and floor directors. And all of these people come together with one desire, with one intention, in a sense, at the root of their intentions. And we might like to do this, we might like to come together, we might like to have, there's always food and drink and incredible people come together. But we've been doing this since time began, it seems sometimes. And the intention has always been the same. The intention is for us to share with you and share with the extraordinary guests and the art and the videos and the music and the poems and the dancing. A vibration of connection, a vibration of togetherness, a vibration of collaboration, a vibration of love, a vibration of oneness, a vibration of truth, a vibration of harmony in a seemingly disharmonious world. And again, we come together. You and I and all the people here and all the people who watch and all the people who get Bridging on all over the world and all the people who help with the internet site and all the people who are intending at this moment in their lives to share, to feel love and share it. And that web of love, that web of truth is getting stronger and more vibrant and more real and more conscious of all the pieces of the web. And that's, in a way, the new paradigm of us coming together in joy, in collaboration, in a recognition of our oneness, of our connectedness. And what has been the differences or the feelings of lack or the feelings of not enough are disappearing into the feelings of the inclusion of that everyone on this planet is our brother and sister, even though there seemingly are wars because people feel that there aren't brothers and sisters in the next country, in the next town, in the next religion, in the next sexual preference. But the web of truth, the web of love is getting stronger. And we know it. As that other thing is reaching the end of its paradigm and the reaching it of the end of its illusion, this new paradigm of truth is coming stronger. And each of us has to remember in our daily lives that that's what we're here to do. We're here to be the light of the world. We're here to shine light where there's illusion, light where there's darkness. And we don't have time for anything else. I mean, what's the point? We talk about, when we do the show, if we're not doing it joyously and lovingly, what's the point? All of us have stuff that somewhere along the line maybe we have to do in this earthly body, in countries, and pay taxes and register your car and smog it and, all the stuff we have to do when we live in a society at this time in the third dimension. But we really know that experience of love, that dedication to the experience, the intention, the realization of that truth is what else is there? And again, with that preamble, with that dedication of this show, we have a guest whose life is dedicated to that. It has been for a long time. Diana Lang is an extraordinary spiritual teacher. She's had 25 years of experience being a teacher, a teacher's teacher of meditation, of yoga. She's written an extraordinary new book, Opening to Meditation, and her life, again, is dedicated to the realization of that love, to feel love and share it. She had her own radio talk show that went out all over the world. It was a spiritual talk show, again, about that. At some point she realized, what is there for me to do other than that? What else makes me feel so joyous? And we have, videos that are so powerful, inspirational world music videos of this group, Mantram, that has extraordinary, talented world musicians who play the most celestial, empowering music. So we have 2 videos of theirs. And as most of you know who've, been watching the show over the last 6 months or a year, we're in the middle of this, unbelievable Bridging Heaven and Earth International Art Project, where in this vision, in this dream, in this realization that, it was important for us to put out the energy of let's create a acupuncture for the planet. Let's have all these people who recognize a new paradigm is coming, create a new original piece based on the theme Bridging Heaven and Earth. And we've been getting, unbelievable jewelry and art and paintings and sculptures from all over the world. And tonight we're going to show 2 more of them. We've been showing them, and we've had art project shows, and actually one of the upcoming shows we're having, so keep watching, is going to have, 10, 15, 20, as many as we can get on in an hour. Extraordinary paintings from all over the world. So, and we really have a show, again, dedicated to the oneness. And if you're watching the show after me talking for this long about it, that's why you're here, and that's why we're doing it. So join me in a short meditation, and Deanna's going to be with us, and it's an opportunity again. So please join me in a short meditation. Thank you. So we're going to start tonight's show with, other than me talking for, but we're going to start with we're going to go right now to the video by this extraordinary musical group, Mantram. It's the Maha Mantram, and we're going to show it in 2 parts. Just settle in, relax, and let their music carry you. So, Mantram.
Before we play the Maha Mantra, which is the great mantra that was given thousands of years ago. Traditionally in India, people, when they leave their bodies, they try to go up to Kashi, outside of Benares. Hopefully that Lord Shiva will say the Maha Mantra in their ear as they leave their bodies so that they can attain liberation. The Maha Mantra consists of 16 names of the Lord. And 2 years ago in Poland, it was given to me in a meditation to record this as the last song for the Mantram album that we did over there. And so this great Maha Mantra we do in 3 sections. And we end with the Sai Gayatri Mantra, and also with the Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavatu, which is basically wishing that there's happiness in all the heaven worlds and all the worlds here on earth, because people are seeking happiness and peace within their lives. And we believe that through the names of the Lord, it can bring happiness and peace. I'd like to introduce our players. From Boulder, Colorado, we have Jeff Litke on tabla. And from the Philippines, we have Sham Reyes. And on the keyboards, we have an extraordinary young man named Surya Bhattacharya.
And also, I'd like to introduce our organist and beautiful lead vocalist here, Radha Bhattacharya.
Namaste.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back so much. It was quite a group, aren't there? So we're here with Diana, and the picture in between us is one of the pieces for the Bridging Art Project, Daniel Rockholt, Autumn Sun. It's a photograph, extraordinary photograph. Just so many different types of manifested intention and beauty have come in from the art project. It's really a wonderful thing. So welcome. I'm glad you could come.
I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, it's great. So you've been like involved in consciousness and love and oneness for a really long time, Earth time now.
Yeah.
And you just came out with this new book about meditation, but you've been teaching meditation and yoga for a long time. When you talk about meditation, what do you want people to experience when they're doing it? What's the intention there?
I think simply love, which is what you keep talking about, to be able to be comfortable in our own skin, to love ourselves, to love, to feel love, to be loved, to live love. If I could put it in a word, it's love.
Yeah, I know. It's interesting because in a way it's very simple.
Yeah.
I mean, and the way of doing it is so complicated.
Yes.
Even meditation gets, everything gets complicated.
And that was my goal in the book, was to say that meditation is simple and that we're already meditating anyway, all the time, and to just call it that, which to me, just a spiritual life is simply a conscious life. That's all.
Yeah, awake.
With love.
Right. Well, if you're awake, really,
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you'd be experiencing.
Yeah, and in awakeness, love is.
Right. And when in your path through this life, to talk about it, did you realize this is what I have to do, that I'm on fire this way, that the rest of my life, and whatever happens up and down, I'm going to be unrelenting with you?
And it is like a burning or a calling, I'll say a funny thing. Probably when I was 3 was my first awareness that this sounds kind of heavy, but I remember at 3 years old not wanting to be here, having a conscious standing in the middle of the hallway, a little child just getting how hard this place can be, and it was a beginning of a process that made me ask questions like, why are we here, and why am I here, and what is life for?
So it started for you, and it was consistent from 3 pretty much? Wow.
Yeah, and then it had hits, like at 7, and then at 14 again, and then at 21, and I was teaching when I was...
Every 7 years?
Around,
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Don't they say every cell in your body changes every 7 years?
Faster than that, but the whole body, every single thing, that's true,
Right.
every single thing.
I thought it was 7, but yeah.
No, that's right. And I think, astrologically, I'm an astrologer as well. My dad is an astrologer, and his mother was an astrologer.
Wow.
So I come from this long line. So having that
And
as a
what sign are
father,
you?
right? What's your sign?
Yeah.
But having that as a beginning,
So
made
that
me
was
learn,
always around your house, of
yes,
great
big thinking.
distances and vastnesses.
Yeah, and learning how to think abstractly. Right away, I knew the planets before I knew my numbers.
Wow.
So even though you can take or leave astrology, it sort of isn't so important to me as much as the thinking that came with it, to see patterns and
Right.
and that we're soul.
Yeah.
And that's thrilling, and that there's these patterns in life and that are written in stars. But I think that got me thinking, because even when I was 7 years old and 8 years old, I was doing everybody's chart saying, you're going to be a veterinarian. There was only 5 things you could be: a doctor or a veterinarian or, something like that from a kid's perspective.
Right.
But people still call me now and say, I became a doctor.
Wow. That's fun.
So, but that was a great thing, because it made me open my mind in a way that most people don't so young, and it definitely put me on a path. So by the time I was 13, I was reading Alice Bailey, which are pretty intense.
That's like white
theosophy.
magic and theosophy.
Yeah, and all the rays and all that stuff. And
By 13.
I was reading that work, which is, if you've read it, it's dense. It's dense material,
Right.
So I had that as a background and studied pretty much everything I could get my hands on, And out of that, what I came out of my little book is so simple. And out of all this depth training that I've had and studied so many philosophies, what I saw was that here's the note that's the same throughout, whether it's TM or Christianity or Judaism or anything, that there's a root, right? And that root is love to me. And I've found that most people are uncomfortable in their body and uncomfortable with themselves, and that the key to all of this is to learn to trust ourselves, that inner voice that we completely dismiss because we're taught very young to completely dismiss it, that it's not valid.
Yeah, that's something,
Yeah.
it's not good.
Exactly.
And in some places, the work of the devil.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is
Yeah.
somewhat heavy.
It's exactly. It is, you know, that's really true. And part of it is just when you start to do a meditation practice of any kind, you immediately start to expand your consciousness right away. And I really feel that from life to life even, that you kind of recapitulate, so that people with very difficult backgrounds, you know, I really feel that part of that is a quick kind of coming back in, so that you can pick up where you left off. So by the time you're 14 or 20, or you're already kind of working, you know, because you're trained young, you know. And I work with a lot of people that are creative and artists and thinkers, and I see that in a lot in common, that there's a lot of struggle in their past, and I feel like that's part of it, because there's some sort of divine order about all of this, you know. It's like perfect. I really see that and feel that. And the other part that feels important to me is because of my yoga practice, having taught yoga for so many years, thousands and thousands and thousands of classes, that to me the word is embodiment. There's one thing to theoretically understand spirituality. It's another to be spirit, to get it inside, so it's in your hands and it's in your eyes.
Well, it can't be otherwise, but, you know, to like have it, you know, just one with it.
Yes, well, yeah, but what happens is that people kind of say words and then aren't in them, you know, and when those two circuits come together, you have potency. Yeah. Yeah.
And so part of what you do is try to line that up. Both you know, you've worked or played hard to make that line up in you, and now to share that with others.
Absolutely. That's everything. It is, I call it congruency, this kind of your inside and your outside matches, rather than feeling one way inside and acting another on the outside, which, you know, I do that too. But what I try to do more and more is to really be real and to just be myself as much as I can let myself be myself. And
what do you think prevents people from doing that, and what are ways that people can, you know, overcome those seeming obstacles?
What prevents people from being themselves is shame and pain and self-hatred and family, social stuff that makes us doubt our truth and our inner voice and make us feel that we are not worthy. And so it's all about healing that bridge, you know, to be able to be yourself, that's not only all right, but it's your gift back to the planet, to be able to that our existence is that gift of being our true self. That's how worthy we are. You know, we're holy.
Right, to experience that.
Yeah.
You know, and over again, and then.
Yeah. And when someone starts to have that awakening of their own sacredness, their life, of course, reflects it, just like their life reflects the lack of that or the disbelief in that. It will reflect that too.
Do you think that there's a change now? I mean, we were talking earlier about like a new paradigm coming in, and that the momentum is the holiness of the human being rather than, and the infinite quality and the inclusive quality of that experience rather than all the separations and all the divisions and things like that?
Well, absolutely, it's everywhere. I remember even at 20 years old, just being in my classes, and I would call them tulips. Bulbs grow in the ground and they will suddenly burst through the snow, like as if in one day. And I remember feeling that people were coming up so fast. Like a normal process, I think, at another time it was a very slow thing, and only a few people did. And I think now people are just popping up everywhere. Consciousness is everywhere. And truly, the more that we even recognize that, the more that happens. And again, it comes back to love, because if
the vibration of love being stronger and stronger. And then the Berlin Wall falls.
Exactly.
And did it fall in 1 minute, or, you know, just...
Right.
Yeah, I know.
And even right now, where the world is so going through so many changes. I really feel like it's a crystallization process, that things have become so fixed. And as we're at a process of really true expansion, that in a way it has to get worse to get better. It almost needs to break, you know, which is partly, I think, what's happening right now. It needs to break. Those old patterns are so old and hard and not supple anymore. And so we're seeing that manifestation, but it's changing. And there's going to be a whole new world. It already is happening. And hopefully we won't do too much damage,
Yeah,
you know, in our breaking.
Traumatic. Yeah, it's very traumatic.
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking earlier about how, you know, there's just so much trauma on the planet now in people's lives. I mean, just in the crew of bridging, I mean, you know, just so many things are happening in people's lives.
Right
and
now.
Little diseases and, you know, just seemed like more crew was more involved in a certain drama.
Yes.
For this particular, you know, show than, I mean, we've done a lot of shows and almost like we never had you know, so much drama. I mean, compared to what's going on the planet, no one is having those kind of experiences, you know, with bombings and, you know.
Because it's in the air.
It's in the air.
And you know, one of the things I do is I write a weekly broadcast that's through the internet.
Yeah, what do you call it?
It's called the Weather Report.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And it's an etheric weather forecast. It's an etheric presentation that says, okay, sensitive people, here's what's happening, and here's how to work with that energy. Because if all of this, if you're having a disease or a problem or whatever's happening,
which you're by yourself,
which everybody does, and if you recognize that it's really just in the air right now, it kind of helps you move through it a little bit softer, you know, so you're not hitting so hard on these things.
Well, you're not taking it so personally. Once you can detach a little, it's a little easier.
Exactly.
You know, you think you're out there all alone with this. Yeah. It's like, oh my God, this doesn't feel good.
Right.
And, you know, I mean, it's not misery loves company exactly, but there is something to it that, you know, that.
Well, it's a different perspective.
Right.
Rather than just saying, you know, something's wrong with me. Right. There's just changes happening, and we're all affected. Every one of us.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, I mean, I don't usually get affected by a lot of these things, but I mean, I found that my frustration level was over those last couple of weeks or last couple of months, not so much the last couple of weeks, but for a while there was really, it was like on edge. Yeah. A lot much more than I can remember. What is this?
I know.
And then when you know, we were putting that, I went to your website and I read your weather words. Well, she's on, you know, she knows what's happening, so this is good. Yeah. So I'm glad she's going to be a guest on the show. So.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I mean, you find that when you write that, it makes you experience what you're experiencing.
Yes.
And put it out there, and
kind of. I mean, what I kind of do a meditation basically, and then tap into something that may or may not have to do with me. Sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. Oftentimes it doesn't. And just like you said, I don't get affected so much because I've got so many processes and things that I know that I don't get bumped around as much. But so what I do is I go into the meditation and I just sort of get this piece of information that is that thing in the air that may be affecting me. Or is affecting me, but not maybe as much as others.
Right. Yeah, no, it's amazing. Yeah, I think it's a really amazing time. You know, with so much seeming turmoil and so much seeming craziness, so much seeming disease and war and all this. And yet, you know, like in the foundation, you know, that's crumbling like down, and this other thing, this tulip or this other giant structure, this always like New Earth they call it.
Right.
You know, based on cooperation, collaboration, love, rather than competition, division.
Right. And aren't we lucky to be alive right now? I mean, we're called for sure, and I think why so many are coming up is because it is a transitional time, and we're sort of like spiritual midwives, you know, kind of helping this thing happen. Because it takes a lot of us, I think, to help that bridge, because it wants to collapse. It wants to go back to what it
almost doesn't know how to go from one to the other.
Because it's a big change.
It's new. Yeah. So, I mean, do you find that in your meditation teachings and yoga teachings that more and more people are finding that they need to come into that realization, that the hunger is growing, that the old things aren't working, the old, you know, money, fame, family, fortune. You know, you live in LA, so there's a lot of that going on. You know, as things go. I mean, it's the, you know, Hollywood and Hollyweird and all that stuff.
definitely, it's more and more and more and more. And there's never been so many New Age spiritual self-help books probably in history as there are now. You know, everybody's writing them, which is fantastic. I think people are so hungry, so starving for it, and religion in the standard way feels narrowing, I think, to some people, even though it can be beautiful too. You know, it's also sacred, but I think people are wanting something more direct experience. And meditation
more
is
inclusive in a
yeah,
way.
exactly.
Not that it's separate,
Right.
that one versus the other, or one is right or better.
Right.
Somebody knows it. You know, we all get a sense somewhere
Right.
that there is this oneness, this infinite, that we are brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
And the rest is so small and silly. And,
Yeah.
but it's habitual. You know, it's hard to break habits like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you wrote the book, your intention was to just get this out more, to get these tools, to get these ways of people going from fear to love.
And partly just because of the way my life has gone is I've tended to be able to teach people that are either teachers themselves or people that have never meditated in their whole life and might be doing this about it, thinking, you know, it's not right or something.
Right.
So I've dealt with a lot of people that have had no experience in it too, mostly actually. And that has given me a lot of perspective of how to teach something so that you can really use it. And I say it's like a hammer and a nail, and it works if you use it. It's got this practicality to it that I wanted to make meditation this very spiritual, mysterious thing. It isn't. It's just something like
natural, it's your
breathing.
breath, right? Yeah, right. So, and the book has a beautiful CD, an audio CD with it. So yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, so it helps people kind of guide them through it, and so you can't fail with this thing.
Right. And yeah, I mean, I mean, the whole idea of, you know, success and failure is one of the places where we, you know, are not going to experience our own, you know, truth that way. All right, so maybe we'll talk, and you'll give some, you know, hints to people, and maybe even do a short guided meditation.
Okay.
We'll see if, you know, you think you want to do that. But so let's go to the second video, Maha Mantram, the second part with the group Mantram, you know, international world, inspiring, incredible music. So Mantram.
Ishwara-vinmahi Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tanna Sarva Prachodayat. Shri Sai Ishwara-vinmahi Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tanna Sarva Prachodayat. Shri Sai Ishwara-vinmahi Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tanna Sarva Prachodayat.
Hi everybody, welcome back. So yeah, thank you Manju for that. That was fantastic. So the painting you're seeing in between Diana and I now is by Leah Bowden. She's an extraordinary friend. She was one of the first people who committed to doing a piece for the project, was really excited about it, came all the way from the East Coast to we did this, you know, beautiful art show opening celebration not too long ago, and she came out for that. And it's called Bridging Heaven to Earth, Leah Bowden. So Diana, when you teach meditation, I mean, you try to make it accessible to everyone, and in a way simple.
Yes.
And why don't you describe that, and then maybe you can do a little short, you know, guided meditation. For
That would
people.
be great.
Yeah.
Well, because of all the different traditions teach different things, you know, from mantras to mudras to prayers to certain positions with your body, you know, cross-legged positions or kneeling or rocking or all these different things. And what I always tell my students is just to do what feels comfortable. Because what your own body wants to do, like some people's bodies really do this when they meditate. It just naturally starts to happen. Or you find yourself just doing some shape in your body that is exactly right. And if you really follow that, it is exactly right.
Your intuition knows for you, right?
Yeah, and it's almost, I think, better than copying something that someone else says. Even though there's nothing wrong with that. You can use rosary beads or whatever you want to do. And that might be your starting point, but ultimately, just like any creative artist, you want to sort of find your way, you know, and then that becomes more powerful, I believe, because it's connected to ourself, and it's back to trusting yourself and finding our way, different than somebody else's way, which works probably perfectly for them,
Right.
you know. So everything that I would teach is to do what's comfortable, go where your body wants to go, follow your breath, quiet the mind as best as the mind can be quieted, which is an impossible task. The mind's job is to manufacture thoughts, yes, and it just is busy, and that's what it does. There's nothing wrong with that. Behind that mental veil is God's silence, you know, and that's where you're trying to get to in between the breaths, I say. You know, it's the easiest way to think of it is like almost like as you're inhaling, you're kind of thinking about inhaling, you know, but those points in between become these vast opening potentials in there. So I just tell people, get comfortable. You can sit on a chair. You don't have to sit in any particular way or do any particular thing, but just to become still and open yourself, be receptive to soul and God and love, and in whatever way we can, you know, and everybody's way of that is a little bit different. And it's just kind of feeling a kind of calmness sort of sweep over you and allow that. And then worrisome thoughts when you're just, you know, anxiety or repetitive thoughts or what about this or lists that we make in our heads when we get quiet, you know, you just sort of try to drop behind. And behind that veil, and that's what I think of it as, just a veil, there's this beautiful allness, that oneness. And so it's pretty simple.
All right, so, I mean, do you think that you can give a short one and guide people who are maybe unfamiliar or would like to try a new one? Would like to, you know, be with you for 5 minutes that way. Yeah, why don't you do that?
Okay, I would love to. Okay, so just find a comfortable way to be. Find your body, find your breath, and notice your breath by breathing deeply at first, just as a starting point to be able to make a connection with yourself through the breath. The breath is the bridge between the soul and the self. And so you're trying to make that connection in a conscious way by your breath. Our breath is our animation, it's our physical life force, and it's also not physically dense. And so it is more like spirit, to inspire, to breathe. And so as you connect with your breath in that conscious way, you begin to make a different kind of connection in your body, brain, mind, heart, soul. So your eyes can be closed. You can just feel yourself resting in your heart, and you feel your awareness start to become more still. And you feel that awareness of that allness, that goodness that you are part of, that you are completely connected to, that you have always been connected to, that you will always be connected to through all time and space. And in that silence, you rest. In that love, you rest. And in that space you are making, you are connecting with something that is as big as time, as old as forever. And you are part of that. You are part of this moment, this present moment, with yourself, with this breath. You become still. And in this stillness, you begin to remember who you are, which is love. Love, love, love. Love. And you touch that point, even if it's just for a moment, this moment, one moment, and your whole self is impressed and changed forevermore. Use your breath now in a conscious way to seal this understanding in your body so that it becomes part of you. It is part of you, but in a conscious way part of you, that you are holy, you are sacred, you are good. And in your heart say that. I am holy. I am sacred. I am good. And with one breath more, feel yourself knowing this and so much more than this. As you begin to let yourself transition out of this meditation. And when you're ready to open your eyes and doing whatever that feels natural to you now. That's good. Yes.
Because she was taking a breath and some big mouth came and I was just getting relaxed. Why did he jump in there? No, I thought so. I mean, I could be complete. Yeah, that's really beautiful. It's an amazing thing how we're so loved, we're so beloved, we're so one. That it's amazing, really, on some level, how all the separation can look so real, how all the illusion can look so real. I mean, to me, at some points, it's like, do people still believe that? Really? And that's why, like, when the astronauts go like 2 inches off and they see this little globe, it's like, how do we do what we do when we're on it?
Yeah, it's so true.
So, I mean, the more that, like you were talking about, like, to bring people into that experience of we've been saying on the show, like, whatever you think you are, you're more. So how do we get to the place where you're not thinking about what you are, but you are?
Yeah.
And then you're just moving, like we were talking about earlier, like love in motion.
Yeah.
It's like, and how would love be? And it's hard to say, really.
Yeah, and to be undefended, It's like all the shells around us that keep us separate from each other, even good friends, even husband and wife and child and parent, you'll see these kinds of walls of I'm the authority, or I'm the boss, or I'm the husband, or I'm the wife.
Yeah, the definition.
And we sort of wear it like a costume. And it's a separation, like cigarettes are, or anything, it's just another way to kind of keep space. And not to make that bad, because there's a reason for that, but I'm always trying to drop away more of that and to be kind of dissolve all those things that any kind of ego pushes, of
or identity.
Identification, exactly.
I mean, it's not that we lose discernment or everyone can come right in our face all the time, because that's like disharmonious.
Right.
But to be so in harmony,
right,
that harmony doesn't have a name, love doesn't really have a name.
Right. Yeah, and then there is that oneness where you really are just one together all the time. You're practically breathing the same breath, and that then it's like this making love thing, you know, where you're just in love, walking as love, and everything that you're moving through starts to be an extension of that. And I talk about it like the wake that you leave behind you, like a boat does. That, you know, what's behind you is the evidence of where you've been, you know, and what do you want to be there. So that makes it kind of easy to know how to move from decision to decision, because you want to sort of have this path that you feel good about, that feels true, that feels love to
Even
you.
if nobody else thinks
Yeah,
so.
right. And nobody else may. That's
Right,
the
nobody
thing.
else
It might
may.
be a very just.
Because it's an internal harmony and internal
Yeah.
knowing.
And it doesn't matter anyway.
Doesn't, no, because because your happiness is not coming
Right.
from either, you know,
Right.
what's behind you or what's in front of you. It's
Right.
right there. You know, love is the question, love is the answer.
Right, exactly, and that's the artistic life. And I'm an artist, and I think that, and I grew
And
up
you don't
with
have
artists.
a piece in the art project?
Yeah,
What
I
is
know.
this happening? Uh-oh, all right.
But to me, artists, what artists do, or musicians, or speakers, or people that are creative, they're simply being themselves. And the great artists, and the great inventors, and the great anybody's are people that have somehow gotten access.
At least for that time.
Yeah, around that subject.
Right,
You
right.
know?
But how can we, like, just, you know, I mean, like, now's the time where that has to filter through everything.
Yeah.
You know, it can't be just when we're in the temple or in the,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, that's why meditation's so great, because you can do it every day if you want to.
Right.
And the more you do it, the more it works. And what I like, you know, what I encourage people to do is to just do like a 5-minute practice, even just something like we just did.
Mm-hmm.
That's very powerful.
Oh, absolutely.
Very different than if you think, okay, I'm going to meditate for 30 minutes. They'll do that for 2 days. It's just too much, and it's unnecessary. You can get to that place like we just did in a few minutes. You can touch that spot, and if you just touch it, it changes the whole day.
Right.
Every decision you make is changed.
I mean, the reason a lot of times people talk about, first of all, sometimes it takes a while to slow the process down and have that experience.
Right.
And that's why, like, old time, you know, gurus and masters used to talk for like 4 days before they could calm people.
But it's different now. Things are faster, and you don't need 4 days. You need 4 minutes.
Right. But there also is some benefit to, like, laying in the experience.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Staying there.
You know, so doing like a meditation retreat, if you're having the experience, if you're thinking about,
right.
You know, it's like, is it better to be in the church thinking about the whorehouse, or, you know, in the whorehouse thinking about God? You know, it's a tough question. You know, it's throughout history. But, you know, I mean, I think, you know, you just want to be having the experience.
Yeah, in whatever way. Some people do want to have a more lengthy experience, but even just a moment, that's my point.
Absolutely.
If anything makes a difference, it really, really does, and it's worth it to just try, you know.
I mean, I always used to say, if we could remember that we're hurtling through space on a ball, you know what I mean? I mean, this whole thing is so vast, and everything we think is reasonable. The whole thing is, you know, to our minds is completely unreasonable.
Yeah.
But, you know, when we cut a piece of infinity so small, it looks reasonable.
Right.
But there's no real, it's you're going from infinity to infinity, so what's reasonable about it? You know, to reason, it's bigger than that. But it's like, you know, if we recognize that for 1 minute, that would change everything, you know, just the vastness like you were talking about earlier. So, I mean, there's just a lot of ways and a lot of, like we talk about, spokes on the wheel for us to come into that experience, and we just want to have that experience. I mean, the way you get in, just have it.
Right.
And more, how can we have it over and over and over? So it's like rubbing up against the magnet so much that we realize we're the magnet. That you know, that we're the one.
Beautifully said.
I should be a guest on these shows. What did you say? No. So, and you're finding like that people are more and more and more open to that and wanting that, and not wanting to settle for another car or a bigger car, or, you know, the next husband, or
well, there's a whole nother thing that's happening now, you know, because there's sort of a spiritual revolution going on, of a lot of people kind of mixing up all the different religions and different teachings into kind of this stew, which is beautiful. There's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes people take it as the dogma of this one and the dogma of that one and the dogma of that one, and they can actually get more restricted.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Right.
it's staying light, sort of staying on the top of it, rather like a surfer almost, rather than getting tumbled by the wave of the tradition, whatever the tradition may be. But to stay, one way you can always know when you got it right is when you feel all right. Pain in all forms is some kind of evidence of some kind of disharmony in the self, period. So whenever we're suffering, which is, we are all coming in and out of that,
Right.
we're in some sort of disconnection position. So that's a way we can tell. That's our guidance in a way, and that's pretty valuable to
Yeah,
think of
right.
it just as simply as that.
If we can disconnect instead of saying I feel terrible or I feel depressed or I feel hurt, how can we, develop like that neutrality, that third eye kind of.
Yeah. And one of the things I always say is, how can you love this? Whatever it is, taxes, traffic, how do you love this? And it's a funny question to ask yourself, because it is the answer if you can figure it out, because it takes you out of the resistance to it.
Right.
As long as you're in resistance to it, then
there's always going to be.
Yeah, we'll stay there longer.
Right. And how have people been responding to the book? I mean, people who have meditated, haven't meditated. Why don't you talk a little about that?
Well, I get so many different kinds of responses. People go to sleep with it. They loop it because it helps them, So there's people that aren't really meditating, or they are meditating,
Right.
because maybe even more, because
Well,
they're subconscious
at their
that
level,
point.
good, solid sleep is important.
Oh, it absolutely
My parents
is.
never get through the meditation on the show. No, we were actually thinking of selling the shows as sleep aids at different times. There was something so unusual to people and so mellow.
Yeah.
That was
It takes you deeper.
It takes you deeper, so you go to sleep for something.
And you rest.
In 30 seconds, what do you want to tell the world?
I want to tell them to love themselves, to forgive themselves, to be easier about it all, to have more fun with things, to play in their lives, and to let their life show them where they're to be, how to be. Let nature kind of play back to you how to respond to it. You don't need to read one more book necessarily, nothing wrong with it, but you don't need anything outside yourself to do this. Just be kind to yourself, be gentle with yourself.
Okay, that's beautiful. If you want any information, Diana, the book, anybody, Manshram, Allyn, 805-687-2053. 2053. Good night. We love you. Thank you. Good night.